Well, I think in today's world there are two major challenges that every executive is going to face in virtually every industry and every business. One of them is external factors that you don't have any control over. So, for example, in the airline industry, about a third of the expense for an airline is fuel. Fuel is a massive cost line item. So no matter how good an airline is at planning and controlling its spending and making wise decisions, the price of fuel is something that an airline has no control over whatsoever. So if fuel, for whatever reason, due to unrest in the Middle East or due to speculation on the part of finance types and people who are gambling in the marketplace, the airline can find that its fuel costs have doubled in a very short period of time, and where they thought they were going to be profitable, suddenly they're facing a huge deficit. So it's that frustration and not being able to control external forces. Now, one of the things that airlines do is to try to hedge against huge swings in the price of fuel. And that in itself is kind of a form of gambling. Airlines like to try to even out and spread out their costs so that they're not surprised by huge spikes in fuel price. So it's those external factors that can be very challenging for executives. A second major factor is, and I think companies all over America and really all over the world now face this issue, is employees, executives, managers, leaders within the company being resistant to change. Now, this is human nature. We all are, to some extent, resistant to change. We like our comfort zone. We understand our world and the way it works. And we're most comfortable when the furniture is not being moved. But in companies today, because business changes so fast and conditions change so fast, businesses have to be quick to respond to market forces. And so getting employees, particularly in a large organization with tens of thousands of employees, getting employees galvanized and getting them in a position where they embrace change, are happy about change, want to find new and better ways of doing things is a big challenge. So you come up against human nature and the intransigence and the eagerness we all have to keep the status quo. That has to be hit head on by virtually every company in America today that wants to grow and succeed. Yes, well, everybody who's been a supervisor knows how hard it is to manage people, even when you are watching everything they do. But imagine being an executive wanting everything to be okay out there and not being able to watch employees do their work. So how do airline executives, for example, know that pilots are doing a good job in the cockpit when there are no cameras, there is no supervision in the cockpit? How do they know that flight attendants are doing a good job? How does management know in a factory that employees all over the country are doing what they are supposed to do? So when you can't watch, how do you make sure that employees are doing the right thing, one, and being productive and engaged in their work, on the other hand? This is where systems and policies and processes come in. So, for example, we read almost every day in the Wall Street Journal about some company getting in trouble because some employee somewhere violated the law, made a big mistake, did something that they shouldn't have done. In many cases, it's employees thinking that they're doing the company a favor, thinking that they're cutting corners in order to make the company more profitable or more efficient, when in fact, really they're taking a big risk with the company's reputation. So how does a smart company put in place systems and processes so that they can go to sleep at night with some level of confidence that everything is going to be okay out there? And one way to do that is to have people in charge of systems and processes who are watching for irregularities, quality control systems, an opportunity to have reports coming in anonymously about things that are happening out there that are not in the company's interest, so management can come in and do something about it. There are companies, there are executives who think, well, compliance programs, all these systems and policies are a drag. They take resources, they take energy, they sap time, and really they don't add value to a company. But companies have to manage risk while they are moving forward and winning in the marketplace. Mistakes that happen, laws that are violated can drag a company down into trouble. Those things are avoidable by having in place the right systems and by a strong leader at the top saying, we care about this. We want our employees always, always, always to do the right thing. And if that integrity and that strength of leadership is effective at the top and the systems are in place, chances are very high a company is going to avoid getting in trouble. Yes, we've seen so many examples in corporate America of employees making little tiny mistakes that can have grotesque, horrible consequences. On the positive side, I think that many companies in America lose sight of little tiny things that can enrich the culture and the brand and the reputation of the company. One tiny thing, and I spent 26 years at Delta Airlines, which was known for its customer service. Mr. Woolman, the founder of the company, used to talk about hospitality from the heart, caring for customers in a very close, personal, warm way. And so Delta employees were infused with the idea of one simple technique, simply smiling. As something as little as a smile is a gift to a customer and can make that customer's day. And doing so sincerely with human warmth can make us feel much better about a business, much better about the person that's serving us. I was helping my daughter move out of her dorm room in college last year. We went to a storage facility in her college town and walked into this storage facility, and this is a kind of a rough and tumble business that's a manual labor business. The receptionist, the lady that was behind the counter to help us, was so positive and bubbly and took the time and the energy, and I asked questions about could we rent a truck, and we have this issue and that issue, and she went to enormous lengths to make us happy, not because she was trying to manipulate us, but because she was just a warm, caring, happy person that liked to help people. Well, she earned my loyalty for that business forever by that one engagement for about 5 minutes. If all frontline employees had that attitude, had that sparkle, had that degree of sincere caring about the customers, it would avoid a lot of problems and generate a lot of loyalty for those businesses. It's those little things that can really define a corporate culture.
What are some of the future trends you see regarding the industry in which you spend a lot of time, that is the airline industry, or the attorney? I guess you could touch on both of them.
Well, the airline industry, of course, has undergone just phenomenal change. We see the latest major event that occurred was the Delta Northwest merger, which in my view is a very good thing for customers because we become a global community here, and people want to be taken from anywhere to everywhere. And it's important to have a network to be able to take the traveler from Bozeman, Montana to Tel Aviv in as seamless and easy and most efficient way possible. We see in the airline industry, because of the volatility of fuel prices, and the airlines are very sensitive to economic changes. So when the economy goes down and companies are beginning to cut back on their spending, one of the first things they do is to cut back on travel. So the airlines are always going to be striving to maintain efficiency, to try to keep costs down so they don't overspend when the economy is good and times are good, and they can continue to have a financially strong business which is so vital to American commerce. Imagine if just one major airline disappeared. The impact on the American economy, the impact on the American traveler would be very high. So the transportation industry is an important part of the fabric of our commercial society and in fact our society at large. We need to make sure that we keep it going, and that means tough decision making by airlines. It means employees in a rational and realistic way, embracing the demands and the realities of the marketplace and doing what's right to keep the company financially strong. So I think we'll see over time airlines continue the struggle. There's no easy way to run an airline. And it's not an easy way to make a buck. I think it was Warren Buffett who said that the quickest way to become a millionaire is to start with $1 billion and invest in the airline industry. And I think that's been proven many times. I worked with did some consulting work for a company in Europe a couple of years ago. And it was a company that had been founded 50 or 60 years ago. It was a family company that made a product that most of us need in our homes. And the founder had decided to retire, and he sold the company to a major conglomerate. So here was a company that had a family atmosphere, that had a long history of doing things in a collegial way. Most of the managers of this company had been with the company for 25 or 30 years. Suddenly, they're thrust into the spotlight of a major, massive global company that had high performance metrics, started driving the employees to produce more in the way of corporate profits, quarterly profits, annual profits, reducing costs, reducing personnel. And suddenly this small, warm, family-oriented company was having to do some things that they just didn't know how to do, and they didn't have the appetite to do it. Well, and when these circumstances arise and companies and managers, leaders feel under enormous pressure to hit performance targets, whatever they may be, there can be a natural impulse to want to cut corners a little bit, sometimes to violate the law or violate policies in order to achieve these performance results. It's that enormous pressure. So how can senior executives, when they are visiting so much pressure, so much performance muscle on their employees, how do those same executives carry an equally strong message? Yes, we're asking a lot of you. Yes, we understand that. Yes, we want you to stretch. But always, 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 we want you to obey the law, and we're not kidding. So for many employees, there's always a question mark. We know the boss has got to talk about obeying the law, and yet she's putting this enormous pressure on us to achieve performance results, financial results. Is this a wink and a nod? When she says she wants us to do the right thing, is she just saying that? Or if the trade-off comes, what would she want us to do? The answer is executives need to make very clear through sanctions, through disciplining employees who violate their rules and their policies, that they really are serious. This is the power of both achieving results, business results, and maintaining high integrity at all times. There was a company that I'm familiar with in Europe that had a history, and it was part of the European zeitgeist at the time, of dividing up markets. And we've seen some examples coming out of the European Union of companies, because they didn't want to work as hard, sometimes mid-level sales executives doing little quiet deals with competitor companies where they say, you take this market and I'll take this market and we'll both make a lot of money. So an executive says, we're just not going to do that. And then what happens? Well, we find that when companies do abide by the rules, they do abide by their policies, they do the right thing, profits actually increase because employees get more motivated. Employees are motivated they want to do the right thing. None of us want to work for an organization which cuts corners or is known for anything less than high integrity. It was a business professor who said, "Quarterly profits do not inspire men's souls." We get our inspiration from other things, from other values. Even though we're motivated to make money, we're also motivated by other things that are equally important. So when President Carter introduced and lobbied the passage of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, American companies all over the world said, "Oh, don't do this to us. Now you're telling us we cannot bribe or we cannot provide kickbacks and incentives for companies and leaders in foreign countries to buy our products. Well, this is unfair to American business." Well, there are other companies in other countries that don't have these limitations. They can do the bribes in order to sell their computers or their equipment. Now you're putting handcuffs on us. President Carter said, well, it's important to do these things. We want American companies to abide by the highest standards of ethics and integrity. Well, companies found out that when they competed and competed fairly and strenuously, they didn't need to do these things that Congress said we're just not going to do anymore. We want to maintain the highest standards. And now countries all around the globe are going the way of American business leadership and political leadership in striving for higher standards and imposing sanctions on those companies that violate the rules. So this is an example of the rest of the world following America's ethics leadership.